latest tourism figures show that fewer South Africans are travelling overseas, and the ailing economy has many seeking alternatives to explore Mzansi's culture and hidden treasures. Now, somebody who is helping people to do that is Afrika Mdolomba. He's a travel content creator who organises local group trips, and he joins us now in the studio. Afrika, thank you so much for joining us. Now, with a name like that, I mean, it was written in the stars that you would make some of your life's work to encourage people to see more of the continent. How did you start on this project of yours?
I started a few years ago when I went to Asia, and I got exposed to this world of backpacking. And I think my life has never been the same ever since I went on my very first backpacking trip, which was to Vietnam and Cambodia. So ever since then, I've really fallen in love with traveling. I do it a lot, especially on the continent and particularly in Asia. So that's my history with traveling.
Now, there's something to be said about solo travel. I've quite enjoyed. I've traveled quite a bit on my own because at certain stages in your life, it allows you just to become comfortable in your own skin, and it forces you to interact with strangers. But there's nothing more fun than going on a group trip with people who are like-minded, perhaps of similar age. And like somebody pointed out when we were preparing for this interview, you don't always have to ask a stranger to take a photo. Why did you decide that these, as you call it on your Instagram account, curated group trips is something that there's a market for?
So a lot of people are quite scared to go solo, like I usually do when I
especially
travel by
women?
myself. Yeah, and I mean for various good reasons as well. Safety, a lot of other reasons why people don't want to do it. So group travel sort of becomes the next alternative if you are too scared to venture into that space by yourself. And group travel has a whole lot of benefits, actually. So you meet a lot of people who are like-minded, like you say, and people who don't really know you, you don't know your past, they don't judge you, and they know the person they see right in front of them. And group travel allows you to do a whole lot more than, for example, if you went by yourself. So you don't need to ask anybody to take your pictures, you don't need anybody to help you wake up, etc. So in a group, you find comfort, you find security, you find a whole lot of things that you wouldn't find if you traveled by yourself.
Now, many of us come from families and communities where we are the first who have the freedom, the opportunity to see the world, and if not, see the rest of the province or the country that you live in. Do you think that's made it difficult for some of us, that there's nobody that you can ask for advice? What should I do? How should I make this booking? Where should I go next? Even to the next town? What has been your experience when dealing with people that perhaps don't come from a background where traveling was the norm?
So absolutely. I mean, our generation, especially in the South African context, is probably the first, well, if not definitely the first. And so you find yourself in a situation where you don't have uncles or aunts who've traveled before, and you have to sort of figure it out by yourself. And that's where we step in, because not everybody can plan a trip effectively and also in a way that's going to be fun. And that's where I come in to curate that experience, because I've sort of built up that experience over a short time. But we are at quite a disadvantage, to be honest with you. We don't have, like you say, people who've done it before us, who can show us how it's done, how to do it effectively.
And at the same time, you're being an entrepreneur and starting a business, and that comes with its own challenges as well.
Definitely. There's a lot of challenges, but there's also a lot of joys in what I do, because...
Tell me some more about those joys.
I mean, I've been able to transform a passion of mine for traveling into a business. So I don't think a lot of people get to do that, particularly in entrepreneurship. And I think I'm in a really good space right now. And so it's not really about a lot of profit for me. It's really about pushing my passion and exposing the world to other people who haven't done what I do. And I completely say, if you haven't done it, please travel. Travel in South Africa, travel abroad.
Well, let's talk about that, traveling locally. I mean, the big thing is always, oh, you have to go to London, oh, you have to go to Paris. But you can actually, you don't have to start with that big step. There are a lot of South Africans that haven't even just seen another province. If somebody's watching right now and they're like, you know what, I've never been to Mpumalanga, but where do I even start? You obviously are a big fan of exploring South Africa in its entirety.
So there are a lot of places where you can start. So there are other people who do what I do, and they do it differently. My trips are more of adventure side to it. So we'll be
activities.
So zip lining, your bungee jumping, your out of the box sort of traveling style. And so if you just pick the right sort of group trip that is for you and that speaks to what you want to achieve in a group trip, that's a very good place to start. And once you get that right, it's much easier for you to navigate and get to where you want to go.
Now, when you talk about group travel, I immediately thought of those big old Contiki tours that still is very popular if you want to see Belgium, France, Italy, and England all in one go. But those groups are quite big, and I always feel like that would be a very overwhelming experience. And if I don't want to do something on a certain day, are they going to force me to do it? And there are all those kinds of questions. The groups that I've seen you feature on your Instagram account, we're showing some of the content now as we speak, are a more manageable group. Are you doing that, keeping it that size on purpose?
Yeah, so it's very tactful what I'm doing. Like you say, nobody wants to go on a group trip with 50 people unless you have to. So you want to go on a group trip with a really small amount of people so you can have those personal engagements. By the end of the trip, you really want to know every single person by name. And you want to know each person by, their character, what do they like, etc. So I absolutely do try and avoid big groups. I myself don't participate in very large groups of travel. And because I know it's not comfortable, you don't get that special attention. And I mean, who wants to deal with 50 tourists
right?
at once? Yeah.
And having to stand in a line or get entry in a big group like that. Just quickly before I let you go, it seems a lot of young people are flocking to these curated group trips that you're putting together. How important for your planning is finding the best spots for them to take photos and selfies?
So those you'll find are very important for people who come on the trip. So everybody wants to get that cool photo at this really scenic place.
Yes.
Because you want to show people at home what you're up to.
Absolutely.
And you want to encourage them and inspire them to also come and visit this place one day. So that's very important. So we do location scouting to find all the cool places where people can really snap those beautiful photos and share with their family back home.
Well, fantastic. It sounds like a great business that you've started off. Afrika Mdolomba, he's a travel content creator and he organizes local group trips. And you can find out more on his Instagram account at Afrika_Insta. Is that correct? And the details of the next trip is there. There's one coming up now in October.
Yeah, we're going back to Mpumalanga in 2 weeks' time. So I was there 2 weeks ago, actually, going back in 2 weeks. And it's really beautiful.
And you're originally from Allowell North. Any plans for a great trip into the beautiful parts of the Eastern Cape that not many people get to see?
Oh, absolutely. So I'm launching a 2020 travel calendar soon, which will have a whole lot more destinations, KZN, Eastern Cape,
Fantastic.
International African countries as well. So big things are coming, 2020.
Awesome, and we wish you everything of the best. Afrika Mdolomba from at Afrika_Insta on Instagram if you want to look up what he and his group gets up to.